all the humans she ever met just had stares of disgust and fear for her because they knew she was a witch. But this girl, instead of running away from her, was rather holding her hand and saying that she trusts her, even though she knew what she was. This made the witch feel obligated to protect Kubra and her unborn child. She could feel Kubra's fear and warmth as she held her arm. The witch's intentions towards the slave girl immediately changed. What Kubra had just said cut her heart. Therefore, she vowed to look after her and make sure no harm comes to her. All she had ever wanted was for someone to hold her and show her how to live like a human, but she was denied by all. Even her own family did not want to have anything to do with her. This was almost like a fresh chance at a new life she had always wanted, and she was going to embrace it. She let Kubra hold her while she searched for a cloth to cover her. When she was finally able to find a cloth to cover Kubra, they both returned to her compound. On arrival, they found the wind blowing harder than usual around the witch's hut, and Kubra could hear voices. The witch knew exactly what this meant, so she hid the girl, warning her to stay quiet whilst she dealt with the situation. The commotion was the arrival of the other witches in the forest. Kubra had them call the witch that just helped her, Lalia, and guess that was the witch's name. Oi, oi, look what Lalia brought us, a human and a new thought. I can feel the purity of their hearts, one of them gleefully cried out. I must say, I am pleased. There could not have been a better feast for our sacrifice, said another. The three had just landed from the treetops. They looked human, but their eyes were all red and lips as black as charcoal, with their long black nails on both their fingers and toes. However, they looked a little more decent than Lalia. The last one sniffed at the air around her, licking her lips. Excited as she stood exactly on where Kubra had sat to prepare her meal, almost like she was reliving the moment. The baby inside her is delicious. I could smell her from miles away. Where did you get her from? The witch watched. Lalia watched as her three mates showed up, all looking very excited at the thought of the feast they thought they were about to savour. Where are they? I can smell them. They smell good already. Even better than fresh meat. Where are they? Let's get this feast started already. One of them paced around impatiently. I don't need to tell you to also smell the spirit around the baby. Lalia finally spoke. They all watched her as she said this, quickly realizing that she was not about to grant them Kubra and her unborn baby on a platter. Surely we can easily take on the spirit. We did it before, remember? She replied as she rushed into Lalia's hut looking for the human. And lost 3 of our members, Lalia reminded them. She was trying to explain how important it is for them to avoid starting a fight with Akwala, but her mates were in no mood to listen to whatever she had to say, as they were worried about more important things, like the sacrifice for the full moon. You know that we are approaching a full moon in a fortnight, one of them said. They all saw the stubborn look on Lalia's face, but they did not seem to be bothered by it. Have you already forgotten what the full moon sacrifice means to us? Need we remind you that this is a sure way to grow stronger and successfully fight our enemies? One of them added. No sooner had she finished her statement than one of them came busting out of Lalia's hut, holding onto Kubra's arm. Ah! They all gasped at how scrawny she looked, almost disappointed. She needs to be fed, one of them said as she scrutinized the poor slave girl's tiny frame. Lalia grabbed Kubra from the witch and fiercely screamed at the witch. She is not for you to sacrifice. It will be over my dead body that this will happen. She moved Kubra behind her and continued. I will not let you have her. I can't. Lalia was now shaking from rage, shocked at her own outburst. The intensity of her instinct to protect the slave girl was as much a surprise to her as it was to the other witches. Why? Why would you want to betray your kind for a wretched human? You know what this sacrifice means to us. She is perfect for it, one of the witches asked, puzzled at Lalia's unexpected desire to protect the girl. Besides, you are in our debt. Remember, it is your turn to bring a sacrifice, she continued with growing irritation over the whole situation. True, but I no longer want to be a part of your cult. I shall pay my dues, but not with her, and not now, Lalia retorted, surprising the witches again. They could not fathom Lalia's sudden change of heart, but they were in no mood to figure out the reasons behind it. After all, they have the rest of their lives to get an explanation from Lalia. All they wanted was to get the girl, their much desired sacrifice for the coming full moon. No way! You have fed on our sacrifices for so long and now you want out? Fine, you can leave our cult, but first you have to pay your dues, and she is what we demand. One of the witches screamed back at her as she stealthily grabbed Kubra, attempting to run past Lalia. But Lalia was quick on her feet and was immediately on the witch's heel. The other two were on tow, trying to stop her from reaching Kubra and their counterpart. Surely you can't be fighting us just to protect a human, after all they did to you, one of the witches reminded her while striking her. At this point, they were all engulfed in a fierce fight. Even though Lalia was a very strong witch, she was no match for the three witches combined. And before long, they overpowered her and she was left helpless. However, she still would not give up. She had sworn to protect Kubra and her unborn child until she draws in her last breath. As she painfully got back to her feet, she saw one of her fellow witches fly past her and hit the trunk of a huge tree behind her. As she landed, she let a loud cry that could curdle the blood of anyone that hears it. As soon as Lalia saw this, she knew that it had to be the spirit. Akwala had joined in the fight and attempted to fight them, stating his presence. And on remembering how he had massacred their witch friends decades ago, the witches hurriedly left. However, as they rushed, they made a solemn promise to Lalia that they will be back, making her certain that they will keep their promise. Their departure left Lalia in a deafening silence. She was now alone with the fearsome spirit, since Akwala was once her mortal enemy. However, as he observed Lalia fight the only family she knew to save Kubra and her baby, he felt eternally grateful to her, hoping that she joins his cause. Also, he was quite impressed by the way she took on three witches, even though he saw that she got wounded in the process. While she yelped for the pain, Lalia made Akwala understand that Kubra was now under her custody. She gave him her word that she would do all it takes to protect her. Akwala felt relieved now. Kubra, who had lost consciousness during the whole ordeal, had begun to slowly wake up. As she became more cognizant of her surroundings, she heard Lalia's voice, but she was speaking in an unfamiliar manner, almost as if it was a different language. She looked around to see where she was speaking from and her eyes set on her. She saw her crumpled on the ground, making sounds to show she was in terrible pain. Kubra immediately scrambled up as quickly as she could and ran to her aid. She helped her up and into the hut. She cleaned her wounds with a piece of cloth torn from the wrapper that the witch had given her earlier for cover. Kubra saw that the witch was very weak, and therefore she did not understand when Lalia insisted that they leave immediately. She knew that they were not safe where they were, however she worried over whether Lalia would be able to move. Lalia pleaded with her to help her up so they can seek another hideout for refuge, making Kubra realize how seriously dangerous their stay in the hut could be. They both slowly walked until they came to a cave-like opening somewhere deeper in the forest. Lalia had never come across it and was certain that it was the only one in the forbidden forest. When they reached the mouth of the cave, Kubra had Lalia utter some incantations, and for a moment everything was still. As soon as she was done, she made a motion for Kubra to help her into the cave. Lalia could sense Kubra's reluctance but quickly assured her that it was safe to enter. Once they were inside, she warned her that they could only stay there for a short while as the witches were sure to start searching for them as soon as they regained their strength. Kubra cleared the ground inside the cave to make room for Lalia to lie as she was still weak. She spread out one of the cloths they brought with them on the ground for Lalia to lay on. Lalia sat across from where she lay, and as Kubra watched her fall asleep, she could not stop the tears welling up in her eyes. She could not help the guilty feeling she had over what she had caused the witch. It was all her fault, she thought. The events of the past few weeks just came rushing back, overwhelming her. Her life had just been turned upside down in a fortnight, but in this short time she had people spring to her aid in the most unexpected way. Never had she ever felt such love and goodwill from any human for as long as she lived. This is all my fault, and I am not even worth it. All I've ever done since I met you is cause you trouble. I have cost you the life you knew and your friends, Kubra cried. As she heard this, Lalia attempted to sit up and speak to her. She grimaced in pain as she did this.